So good afternoon to one and all. Next 1 hour, I'm going to discuss about double slag practice in the induction furnace. The double slag practice is not common in electric arc furnace, where phosphorus and sulfur both to be removed from the steel making process. However, for double slag practice in induction furnaces, recent area, and I think rarely has been reported that how phosphorus and sulfur can be removed in the induction furnace. So before going to my original lecture of today, I just simply ask, many of us know that why iron rust. The metallurgy reason, most of us know that metallurgy reason why iron rust. However, but the Roman philosophers stated that why iron is rust, it's because of its nature of the iron. During Second World War, the iron is used to make missile, weapons, and guns. It used to kill the people, murders. So because of bad behavior, iron is rust. It's not because of some metallurgy. The reason for formation or passivation film over the iron. Okay, so it's according to the philosopher Pliny, who stated that iron is rust because of the bad behavior. So I'm going to my lecture of the today. The most of us knows the process flow diagram for iron and steel making plant. For example, for iron for integrated steel making, it goes through the blast furnace iron, blast furnace, and BF route, where high-grade coke and pellet and cinder are required for production of hot metal. The part of hot metal, 80% of hot metal goes to BF, which is LD converter, and some of hot metal also goes to electric arc furnace, and few hot metal are casted in solid big iron. Some goes to secondary steel sector, and some goes to foundry section where cast iron are made. So, and also if blast furnace BF, basic oxygen furnace, utilize almost 90 to 95% of liquid hot metal from blast furnace. Case of for steels, in case of electric arc furnace induction furnace, they usually use almost 100 or 80% of solid charge materials such as DRI and steel scrap. So if you look at the recent generation, that recent trend, that if high grade coke is available, we can go with the blast furnace and LD route. With the time, the availability of high grade coke and iron ore meet all the required steel production through blast furnace and BF route. So need to depend upon the depend on the raw materials such as low grade coke and iron ore. Since low grade coke and iron ore cannot go for blast furnace iron making, so it just to go through alternative iron making like DRI. So production of DRI can be done using low grade coke or non-metallurgical coke and some low grade. So, and also the steel which is prepared long ago was not high clean steel like recent previously steel grade. So scrap generation will also increase in the future. So there is a two driving force why the induction furnace and electric arc furnace is important because of grade of raw material, and also the steel scrap which is been not utilized or recycled into BF converter can goes to electric arc furnace and induction arc furnace. And also if that is why the main reason why now the plants are looking for electric alternative steel making like electric arc furnace and induction arc furnace. The both can utilize the solid charge material. However, the induction furnace has got more advantage over electric arc furnace. So this is general flow diagram. And also the induction furnace got the many advantages over electric arc furnace. It can melt variety of raw material from low melting to high melting metals, and also the quick and efficient heating. In case of electric arc furnace, you will get not lots of noise, and you can loss of some slags and metals. So if efficient reaction is possible in induction arc furnace, and also the pollution, dust and other noise pollution can be avoided in induction furnace. And also the induction furnace and also the homogeneous of path temperature in terms of combustion is more in induction furnace than electric arc furnace. Although the induction furnace got the many advantages, but it got certain disadvantage with respect to the refining. Nowadays, they inject the oxygen even in the electric arc furnace to take care of phosphorus and other impurities. And in case of induction furnace, the injection of oxygen is restricted because of high lining erosion. If you look at the two pattern of lining of induction and electric arc furnace, the electric arc furnace they uses MgO based bricks in the lining. In case if you look at the induction furnace, they use the acetic or silica based ramming mass in term powder in the induction furnace. So where there is, when you use the acetic and ramming mass based refractory material, the more attack will be there in induction furnace. And also for if you look at the double slag practice is more common in the electric arc furnace, because during they prepare two kind of slag. One is the oxidation slag and reducing slag. The oxidation slag is useful for removal of phosphorus, whereas for reducing slag is important for removal of sulfur. So when we inject the oxygen into melt or during steel refining in the electric arc furnace, it oxidizes some impurities along with the phosphorus. So it forms oxidation slag, and also we add some basic and other oxide to form the slag. And you remove the slag from the oxidation slag, then add some deoxidase like aluminum, silicon, manganese to form reducing slag that will help in removal of sulfur in the induction furnace, in the electric arc furnace. But induction arc furnace, this process is not well established. Maybe there is no report, and the people are now maybe started trying to find out which method we can take care of both sulfur and phosphorus during induction furnace steel making. If you look at the general data which is got from MOS and the FICC steel report, 57% of total steel production comes from secondary steel sector, which consists of electric arc furnace and induction arc furnace. It is more than BO steel making. If you look at particularly 30% of steel is produced from induction furnace, but the steel produced from induction furnace is having phosphorus and sulfur very high. If you look at the phosphorus content, it's around 0.085 to 0.1. You look at the phosphorus, if you look at the sulfur, 0.06 to 0.1. As per BA standard, for any structural steel, the required level of sulfur and phosphorus, addition of both sulfur, it should not more than 0.06. And also recently, the Ministry of Steel advised the induction furnace steel maker that whatever grade you produce through induction furnace, you should meet the BA standard with respect to the steel grade and particularly phosphorus and sulfur. And also, since I said that Indian induction furnaces adopt the acetic based ramming mass in the furnace, because actually they're reluctant to use the basic or neutral lining because of swelling resistance of refractory lining and cost of the refractory lining. And also nowadays the people are trying to develop the new refractory lining for the induction furnace to replace acetic furnace with low cost and high swelling resistance. So for as many of us knows that the phosphorus and sulfur removal required basic slag, which means the refractory lining should be also in basic manner. If it is acidic slag, that the erosion, the attack between the slag material, slag and Efrod lining will be more, and also a refining such as phosphorus removal and sulfur removal may not be possible. So there is scope in induction furnace steelmaker to take care of sulfur and phosphorus. If they take care of both sulfur and phosphorus, they can sell it the market with high price and with improved quality of the steel. As I said, that BIS is standard of different steel grade. If you look at hot rolled, medium and high strength structure steel, as phosphorus and sulfur are almost around 0.04. And also if you look at the concrete reinforcement steel grade, it has high phosphorus can be tolerated 0.045. And some seismic grade steel which has sulfur and phosphorus both are 0.032 and 0.03. And then now the steel which is produced from induction furnace consists usually phosphorus is 0.085, 0.105 and sulfur 0.06. And also I'd like to emphasize once again that if induction furnace and electric arc furnace is going to main steel producer in the future to utilize DRI and the steel scrap which is going to generate in huge amount. Okay. So if you want to meet the quality like with similar to the view of steel, need to develop the refining process or control of phosphorus, at least control of phosphorus and sulfur in induction furnace, so that the formation of inclusion and production of clean steel may be possible. So in that, and one more time, the double slag practice is most of us known that single slag practice is implied when the sulfur removal is not required, which is primary steel making, where we inject oxygen to remove all the oxidative impurities such as carbon, manganese, phosphorus and extra. But sulfur you can't remove it in the single oxidation slag practice. When both phosphorus and sulfur is required, we need to adopt the double slag practice, where we inject oxygen to remove phosphorus, then we remove the slag, then we form the new slag which is suitable for the sulfur removal. To form the new slag, we had oxygen reduction in oxygen potential is important. So for this, we need a ferro aluminum manganese or aluminum as a deoxidizer to form the reducing slag. So reducing slag can also help in loss of alloying element in subsequent processes. So I have separated in two sections, which is dephosphorylation of steel in induction furnace, then dephosphorylation of induction furnace. So in this first, I will just talk about the dephosphorylation of induction furnace. In this session, in this view, I will try to touch upon the design of synthetic slag. Synthetic slag we usually call flex. So both are same. The synthetic slag and flex are same. So first, how we developed synthetic slag based on the thermodynamics, some experimental condition. Then the performance of developed synthetic slag in the laboratory induction furnace at NML. So then I will talk about how synthetic slag is developed for sulfur removal, then performance of developed synthetic slag in the induction furnaces. So most of us know that phosphorus, for certain grade, the phosphorus is good, but most of the steel grade, the structural related steels, the phosphorus content should be at least less than 0.04. So phosphorus, because of phosphorus, one of the advantage you can say that there has been report that the Delhi pillar is non-corrosive because of high phosphorus, because of formation of the phosphate layer over it. But other than that, I don't think the phosphorus has more application, more important or effective property for structural steel grade. It is, and also there is a report suggested that the riverbed ship is fractured due to the cold shortness reason I found it to be high phosphorus in the steel. So it increased the ductile to fertile transition temperature and highly undesirable for any structural application where it to be used. So the phosphorus, the advantage of phosphorus is low. So and also the adverse effect of phosphorus is huge. So removal of phosphorus from steel is essential. So that, as I said, the design of synthetic slag, I follow these 6 to 8 to 9 points to develop. I consider these points to develop the synthetic slag. The thermodynamic consideration, where I consider the equilibrium reaction of phosphorus removal, and also equilibrium constant, and also the activity coefficient of V2O5. As you know, the basicity, the V is very important. So V2, I consider here, assume that percentage of CO by percentage of SiO2. And also I have considered this ratio, which is COO, CaO, and 0.6 weight% MgO and other things. And also to validate my basicity and other things, I also calculated the optical basicity. The 0.2 and 3, 4, both are that it is dealing with slag, and the optical, most of us know that how optical basicity is calculated. If you look at the number of oxygen atom in the molecules and the optical basicity of each compound, the optical basicity each compound is known. You know the slag, what are the raw material taken. So from that you can calculate the optical basicity of your slag. So B2, B4 and optical basicity I have considered with respect to the slag and acetic and basic ratio. And also I calculate the phosphate capacity, and also phosphate capacity I have measured from the available empirical or established empirical equation on model to calculate phosphate capacity. The phosphate distribution is very important. Phosphate distribution is very important, which will tell you how much phosphorus has been removed from your liquid steel to slag. And the viscosity slag is important. The more viscosity means the less interaction between your slag metal. So the optimum viscosity is required so that your slag metal reaction will be favorable. As you know that phosphorus and sulfur removal, usually the slag metal reaction. Although the P2 initially react with oxygen, then it react with calcium, but slag metal reaction is increased in case of phosphorus and sulfur. And also we have calculated the liquidus region of our developed synthetic slag using the ternary diagram or other some Fox-Test calculation. And also I considered the furnace condition and process, which process is used, which kind of steel is used to remove the phosphorus and sulfur, and also some effect of allying element on oxygen potential, which is very important for sulfur phosphorus removal. Look at the thermodynamics of P2O5 in steel making slag. Just simple, there are many reactions you can consider, but I consider this reaction. This is a dissolved phosphorus in the steel. This is a FeO. You can consider in the slag, or you can the FeO is directly, we understand that this directly proportional to oxygen potential. Since as we know that the high basic slag is required, so I added CO in the reaction. So the phosphorus initially formed P2O5 at the steel making temperature. The P2O5 is not stable. It again revert back to metal when temperature increases if CO is not there. So the addition of CO is very important to hold the P2O5 in the slag. And also there is a debate that the tricalcium phosphorus removed as a tricalcium phosphate or tetracalcium phosphate, but it is proved that the phosphorus is removed as a tricalcium phosphate. Although there is a debate that tricalcium or tetracalcium, but there has been recently they proved that phosphate removed as a tricalcium phosphate. So I consider the equilibrium constant. So equilibrium constant, everybody knows that activity of product divided by activity of reactant. So since it is this, so and also if you look at this phosphorus removal, the phosphorus removal mainly based on the partition ratio of phosphorus between the slag and liquid steel. The dephosphorylation of steel required oxidation and the basic slag. The reaction of phosphorus with dissolved oxygen is here. This is directly proportional to dissolved oxygen. Can write down dissolved oxygen, and also if you look at the partition ratio, this is percentage of phosphorus in the slag. This is the weight percent of phosphorus in the metal. That is approximately equal to the equilibrium constant and activity of CaO and activity of FeO. So if this value is more, it is understand that you have removed or phosphorus or degree of phosphorization is very high. However, the Bulgaria has reported that the phosphorus distribution ratio as a function of FeO. If you look at effort, the maximum value is achieved with increasing basicity. If you look at the basicity for this curve is 2.4, 2.8, for this 3.5, for this 4. So if you increase the line CaO or CaO by SiO2 ratio, you will have more phosphorus in the slag, which means you reduce your phosphorus content to required level. And also if you look at the FeO ratio, it maximum somewhere around 12 to 20, or you can consider 12 to 15 or 12 to 16. So optimum level of FeO is required. Optimum level of FeO is required. It means that higher FeO, higher FeO, it will lower the dephosphorylation ability of the slag. So optimum FeO in the steel making is essential for the dephosphorylation of steel, which is around 12 to 16. So from here, you can optimize what is the percentage of FeO in the US slag. A slag means in a synthetic slag or flex. So from this, you can optimize FeO content, and also you can optimize based on basicity what would be approximate of lime is required to dephosphorylation. And also the activity, as I said, the activity coefficient is very important. To achieve the higher value of dephosphorylation, the dephosphorylation index, the lower coefficient of activity coefficient is important. The lower activity coefficient in slag is required. There are few empirical relationship model are available to measure the activity coefficient of Fe2O5 in the slag. The lower the Fe2O5 may be achieved by adding the basic oxide such as Ca.
Hello.
Activity coefficient of P2O5. So if you look at this equation, it consists of CaO, MgO, MnO, FeO, and SiO2. All the basic nature of the slag to be termed this. This is a stick slag, and also there is temperature constant. The constant is depending upon the what kind of slag to be used. It means that the index of fast dephosphorylation is very important. So for this, the activity coefficient of your slag to be measured. If lower the activity of coefficient can be achieved to form the stable phosphate compound by stabilizing the P2O5 by forming compounds of phosphate. Okay. So another important characteristic of the slag is phosphate capacity. The phosphate capacity is ability of your slag or flex to absorb your phosphorus from metal to slag. The removal of phosphorus reaction during steel making can be represented as this: phosphorus, dissolved oxygen, and this is oxygen from the slag. The phosphate capacity of slag for low alloy steel can be written as this. This is known from your previous experiment, and also to calculate this, there are some empirical model. You can use this is established. This is a proven empirical model to design your synthetic slag. You can calculate phosphate capacity. This is a dissolved oxygen in the liquid steel. The dissolved oxygen in the steel can be measured using the oxygen probe in the slag in the steel making industry. And also dissolved oxygen can also be calculated thermodynamically using some equilibrium reaction between the oxygen dissolved and with respect to the alloying element present in the steel. And I will also tell you the equilibrium, the dissolved oxygen content theoretical calculation with respect to the composition of the steel. Phosphorus, and also the phosphorus removal is very much sensitive to the temperature because the phosphorus reversion is possible at a high steel making temperature. So phosphate capacity of the slag decrease with increase the temperature above certain temperature, which is around 1580 degrees Celsius. So another property, and also before going my actual things, and I will also just briefly touch upon the FactSage, which is a thermodynamic software. It's kind of FactSage. It is available with us in NML, and also we have other thermodynamic database software, which is Thermocock, FactSage, and a few more. For slag system, I personally believe that FactSage is more suitable or more convenient than Thermocock. So FactSage got different models. So reaction, there is a different model, reaction model is used to calculate all the thermodynamics property of the slag, of the chemical reaction. If you know the reactant and product, you can calculate the free energy, enthalpy, entropy, equilibrium constant, everything you can calculate by using this reaction model of the FactSage. This is predominant EHPH, that is we are not going to discuss, and the equilibrium model. When you know the reactant, what are the possible product can be formed that can be analyzed by equilibrium model. The phase diagram, you know that you can dot ternary phase diagram. From that you can calculate the liquidus temperature and also liquidus area and different isotherm and other things. And another one important model is viscosity. The viscosity of different can be used. This is available. I use this software to design the synthetic slag or flex for both sulfur and phosphorus removal. So I'm not going to, this is when we separate class for Thermocock lecture, maybe some Thermocock tutorial can be done from there. And the ternary diagram, we have drawn the ternary diagram with varying composition and temperature of different isotherm. Here the CaO and SiO2 and Al2O3, and we varied MgO. Why we varied MgO? Since most of the industry or other electric furnace or induction furnace to be used MgO based lining, and also our experiment is conducted in NML using the MgO based effort lining, mass. So MgO is I have considered. MgO is considered with constant amount. I varied CO and SiO2. I have calculated different isotherm 14, 15, 16, and 17. If you know that with the increase the temperature, this is a liquidus region. If you look at this is a 1400 isotherm. In this, the composition slag which lies in this end circle is liquid. They are 1400. If 1500, this curve, the 1500, as this circle which is enclosed in this circle is liquid. So accordingly, we have varied with the different MgO. We calculated and we find out that load where with increasing temperatures, with increasing MgO and changing temperature, what is the liquidus edge region of our slag. Because to identify your slag where it falls in the diagram, we have calculated the ternary diagram for different isotherm with varying composition. Here CaO, Al2O3, SiO2, this line. This will kill you the increasing SiO2. Here alumina, this goes to CaO. And we here MgO is, we fixed some constant value, 5% MgO. Why we have considered MgO is here, because most of the furnaces using the MgO refractory lining in electric arc furnace, and some induction furnace that to be used MgO ramming MOS. And also the study which have we done at the NML, we uses induction furnace that has MgO based lining. So we consider MgO into the account. So to design your synthetic slag, your flex, the synthetic slag composition should lies inside the circle. Okay, which says that your slag is in liquid state at the temperature. So if, for example, this is 1400 isotherm, this one is 1500, which means that the slag, which is the composition which is lies inside the 1500, the slag are more liquidous phase. The beyond out of the circle is solid. So more liquidous slag is important. So you need to consider this diagram to choose your slag. Okay. So accordingly, we have very different MgO ratio. We calculated Tenner diagram and different isotherm, and we have taken guideline from there, from this diagram, what will be my alumina and silica and CO and MgO. And also with varying different MgO, that is your at 16-15 degrees Celsius. This is different isotherm. So I have chosen one constant temperature, which is 1650 degrees Celsius. At 1650 degrees Celsius, 1650 degrees Celsius we chosen because most of the steel making temperatures varies from 1600 to 1650. So at 1650 degrees Celsius, the liquidous region is widened. So this is 20% of MgO, and this one is 0%. It's also simply that with increasing MgO at constant temperature, your liquidous region is shrinks. See, in case of 0% MgO, this line is here. So you get more liquidous area, When if you look at the 20% MgO, its liquid region is shrinking, which means that your lime, you can calculate CO and SiO2 will be very less, which means you can end up with low basic slag. So accordingly, you need to optimize the MgO slag, MgO in the content and MgO and SiO2 Al2O3. For example, if 5% MgO you take, 5%, so I can take around 60% of CO, and if you look at 20% SiO2 and 30% of your SiO2 and 20% Al2O3. So accordingly, you can optimize your composition using this Tenner diagram as a sum tool. And also, as I said, that dissolved oxygen is function of the allying element, deoxidation element. For example, this is thermodynamic equilibrium constant, which is percentage of oxygen, dissolved oxygen. This is a percentage of carbon. This one dissolved oxygen, silicon, oxygen, aluminium, oxygen, Heman. So accordingly, we have calculated using that. If you know the weight percentage this element is there, you can able to tell you what is the percentage of dissolved oxygen in the liquid steel. But this is theoretical calculation. As per experimental oxygen probe and SELAX method, maybe give you some different value, but this will give you some rough idea about what is my oxygen level in the steel based on the depending upon the allying element. And this is actually independent of allying element. It's independent means that only oxygen and carbon. Only carbon and oxygen. But if all the elements is there, your oxygen will be low or oxygen will be varied with individual element. For this, I think the interaction coefficient should add in the equation. In this equation, interaction coefficient must add, and you can calculate oxygen that will be more accurate than this independent oxygen, dissolved oxygen measurement with respect to the one deoxidation element. So this can tell you the rough idea about what is the percentage of dissolved oxygen in this steel, because the phosphorus removal demands high oxygen potential. So at least you should have the minimum oxygen amount in your liquid steel so that the phosphorus removal may be possible. In the electric arc furnace and BO converter, they inject oxygen to increase the oxygen potential in the liquid steel. But in case of induction furnace, because of the ramming modes and then they're not using bricks and all, the oxygen injection is rarely done, and I think they're not doing it because of interaction between refractory is very high and it erode severely. So for example, to increase if your oxygen is low, you can find out some oxidation agent. You can add some oxides of iron oxide. You can add some iron oxide or other some oxide which can improve or increase your oxygen content in the liquid steel. So once oxygen is formed, that oxygen will usually the oxygen is this is a dissolved oxygen. The dissolved oxygen, but the oxide and oxygen usually when it enter into steel at temperature of 1650 degrees Celsius, it dissociate and to form the dissolved oxygen like this. So the dissociation that O2 equal to 2O. That 2O is dissolved oxygen. That will react with your phosphorus, and that is your liquid metal reaction. The gas metal reaction may also sometimes possible, but it's very less. So usually whatever the thermodynamics calculation, everything done, it's for dissolved oxygen. The direct P2O5 direct reaction between the gaseous oxygen and P2 will also be there, but that how much extent of this reaction is happening, that need to be identified, and I think it is very low. So dissolved oxygen is the metal to be determined. And also the phosphate capacity, as I said, the phosphate capacity is very important. The phosphate capacity that will tell you the your slag whether capable of removing phosphorus or not. If you keep phosphorus capacity high, there is high chance of high chance of phosphorus removal. So I have used two different models, and two different models. Both models behave same, suggests that phosphorus removal is very high at low temperature. If you look at these, phosphate capacity is high at low temperature. With increased temperature, the phosphorus capacity is decreased. This reason may be that already said that phosphorus reversion may be happening or not, or may be happening, and also there is not chance of formation of phosphate compound, a stable phosphate compound, which is tricalcium phosphate. As I said, I calculated activity coefficient of P2O5 using the model, which shows some value like this. This is for, I just shown the few slag composition, maybe 10% of it. This is 8%. I calculated this at 1588 different temperature. So this before performing your actual experiment, by theoretical value and thermodynamics calculation and other theoretical calculations like phosphate capacity and phosphorus distribution, that should ensure that your slag may be work to remove the phosphorus in the steel. Then after, once we confirmed with theoretical calculation, one theoretically accepted that my slag or flash is going to perform, so I go for experimentation. Before that, this I have already discussed, but short summary: low melting and oxidation slag is required for phosphorus removal. As I said, that low viscosity slag is preferable to enhance the slag metal reaction. As I said, high basic slag, low temperature, and low activity of P2O5 phosphorus in the slag, so that the higher activity of phosphorus in the metal can transform to the low activity of phosphorus in the slag. So high concentration of phosphorus can goes to slag where the phosphorus is initially negligible in the slag. So phosphorus slag is initially low at time 0, with increase the time or with the addition of the flax or synthetic slag, P2O5 in the slag is going to increase, which it directly says that phosphorus is transferred from your metal. So, and also with the different temperature, the phosphate distribution ratio. See, high temperature, the phosphorus ratio is low, 17, 1660, 1620, and reports suggest that 1580 degrees Celsius, which is where P2O phosphorus removal and phosphate distribution ratio is high. So from that, it is all at constant basicity 2.8. Your phosphate distribution ratio is almost 400 at 1580 degrees Celsius. So from that also you can say that, and also the many reports suggest that at least minimum 2% of basicity CaO by SiO2 is required for dephosphorylation. And as I said, that viscosity and phosphorus distribution ratio, okay, I've calculated at 1650 degrees Celsius. Some results are shown here. If you look at the viscosity of 1650 degrees Celsius with varying composition. This at temperature is constant, but we are varying composition. So here you end up with some different value of viscosity. This viscosity is measured using Paxage. There are different model. There are different developed model to calculate the viscosity. So before a design or before experiment, you also ensure that you got less viscous slag for phosphorus removal. So, and also I have ensured P2O5 by P, the phosphorus distribution ratio for my study. So all my theoretical calculation from viscosity, phosphate capacity, phosphorus distribution, and activity coefficient, everything I have measured using theoretical data, thermodynamics and slag atlas, and also some information was obtained from an experiment. So you consider this before going experiment and to develop the synthetic slag or flex. We have used different raw material like lime, silica, and MgO, and also the steel composition. We use different steel composition from plain carbon steel to alloy carbon steel. The preparation of synthetic slag. You can prepare the synthetic slag in different ways. The dominant methods are available to prepare synthetic slag are usually 3. There are other methods may be available, but 3 are more common. One is you mix a different oxide. Different oxide means different raw material as shown in previous slide, like lime, silica, MgO, alumina, and other oxidation agent to mix it. So you add some binder, you just mechanical mixture of different oxide, then you can add it. This will also synthetic slag. Synthetic slag is mixture of different just mechanical mixture. You just mix it in properly with adding some binder, and you can add some water if required. So can be the fines will be agglomerated slightly. So this is one method, and another method, all the raw material is fused, semi-fused at temperature 1200 to 1250 degrees Celsius. Why? Because when you use a pure compound as such, like SiO and other thing, the liquidus temperature or melting temperature, each oxide, melting range of each oxide is very high. If you look at MgO is very high, CaO, SiO2 all are very high, which is higher than steel making temperature. When these 3 are fused at temperature range 1200 to 1250 degrees Celsius, it forms some eutectic compound or some complex structure of the slag, which lower your melting or liquidus temperature of the slag. So which is easy to form liquid at the steel making temperature. And also this is pre-fused, and also you melt the slag in the rotary kiln or using graphite crucible. You cool or constitute room temperature, then you use it. So that is another method of synthetic slag preparation. The third method is the melting followed by cooling. The second method is just pre-fusing at temperature range this in rotary kiln or gas fed or any other furnace. And first one is a mixture of different oxide with using binder, so that can, so these three can perform your phosphorus removal. However, the formation of liquid, the dissolution of each oxide may varies with a different method. I think for case 2 and second, so 2 and third, the dissolution rate of oxide may be faster than the case 2, because of case 2 is just a mechanical mixture of different oxide. If you ensure that your induction in your furnace have high temperature, you can use it. There might not be any problem in terms of dissolution, because of we have added, or we are going to add the further form of different oxide. So when synthetic slag is prepared, this is a process flow we follow. Since we can use steel scrap or DRI, that is your charged material through the induction furnace. So once melting is happening, so you add flex synthetic slag or flex, both, okay, both are same. So you add in induction furnace, the refining sometime maybe 5 to 20 minutes, or the time varies. So after refining, you remove the slag, then you add alloying element, tapping, followed by the casting. So here main issue is what will be the addition of flex time, how much amount of flex to be added. That you need to optimize based on some calculation, or how much phosphorus to remove. And also that is the refining time and temperature also be optimized based on the experiment. Why? Because that all the kinetics information or not we have studied, but kinetic for actual processing time can be optimized, can be able to find out through the experimentation. So this is where we melt it, then we add flex addition, then remove the slag. The slag removal is very important. Why? Because slag removal is maybe the phosphate reversion may be possible. So appropriate the slag removal at appropriate time is advised, or it is recommended to avoid the phosphorus removal. And as I said that the synthetic slag addition. So how much synthetic slag to be added to remove certain phosphorus from the steel? You know the initial phosphorus in the steel, and also what is the final phosphorus to recovered in the steel. And also you, as per calculation, you know that phosphorus distribution ratio, which is the percentage of phosphorus in the slag and percentage of phosphorus in the metal. And also this is distribution ratio. You have calculated this, and weight of the metal is known. So only you need to know this weight of the flux. So weight of the flux equal to the weight of the metal and phosphorus distribution ratio and the degree of phosphorization. So based on this, you can calculate what is the percentage of flux required to remove this much phosphorus to that much level of phosphorus in the liquid steel. So at NML, we have different capacity of induction furnace from 2 kg to 40 kg induction furnace. This is 2 kg induction furnace, and we have 5 kg, 10 kg, and 20 kg. And this is air induction furnace. This is chamber for vacuum. This is a 40 kg vacuum induction furnace. This is not lined properly. We have just before lining 40 kg induction furnace. All those furnaces we use for R&D purposes, so allied development and some refining reaction like phosphorus, sulfur, and nitrogen removal. So in our experiment, in this presentation, we have used 40 kg induction furnace, up to 40 kg induction furnace with a different capacity, and also some experiment were done at Hyderabad in 350 kg induction furnace. So both results I am going to discuss, but laboratory trial, industrial trial to be taken maybe next year, as we are doing one Ministry of Steel project with CGCRI Karaikudi, CGCRI Kolkata, and NIST Chandigarh. So then CGCRI is developing the MgO based refractory lining, and we NML has developed flux for phosphorus and phosphorus removal, and both developed CGCRI developed ramming mass, and NML developed flux to be tested in the laboratory in industrial trial maybe 10 to 12 ton scale. So this we have studied from laboratory style to up to 350 kg induction trial. Okay. So and also I have studied that with the from that formula, from that equation, we have calculated what is the percentage of the different percentage of flux addition and dephosphorylation ratio. If you look at the 2% of flux, the degree of phosphorus removal is 40, but it increases with increasing the flux addition. But after a certain time, maybe 3%, 3 to 4, the degree of phosphorylation is almost constant. We achieved around 78%, 76%, different percentage. The degree of phosphorylation is calculated. That's simple mathematics calculation, phosphorus initial, final, and phosphorus initial indenture that will give you. So from this study, we calculated the minimum 3 to 5% of flux may be required to remove the phosphorus from steel. But that also depends upon the initial and final phosphorus required in the steel. The ratio, this range is required. Accordingly, your percentage of metal, percentage of synthetic slag may vary. And initially, we have achieved one heat, we achieved 0.017. This we are done in neutral line. And also we have conducted experiment in 40 kg scale. If you look at we have achieved almost 0.023%. If you look at the dephosphorylation ratio, it varies from 70 to 75. So which means that 0.08, 0.1, we have achieved this much with 5% of flux addition. But here used that previous one, we are using neutral lining. And we have here in this experiment, we are used MgO based lining material. And also, as I said, that 350 kg trial also taken, and that is in neutral lining. If you look at
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and also we have tested our developed synthetic slag in 40 kg induction, in 350 kg induction furnace, where we used Saint-Gobain developed neutral lining, which shows the phosphorus has been removed 0.225 from 0.7. And also we have almost all the times, all the heats, we have reduced the required level of phosphorus in the steel. But this value is, because some value it's high, because of we have, after that we have added some alloying addition. After alloying addition, some phosphorus has been reverted back. This may be because of the improper slag removal. For 5 heats out of 6, 5 heat the phosphorus is less than 0.3. But for 1 heat 0.06. This because some slag removal is not happened properly, and also we have added deoxidation element where we reduced, we created a reducing condition where phosphorus removal may be reverted. And also for summary of dephosphorylation, as I said, the use of flex synthetic slag can take care of phosphorus in induction furnace. So as of now, the Indian induction furnace uses acetic lining, so can be replaced with basic and neutral lining with high spalling resistance. And the phosphorus, as I said, the phosphorus distribution and phosphate capacity is very important. And developed synthetic slag in basic line scale 40 to 40 kg in the scale. And our flex composition, if you look at this, is varies 10 to 25, maybe alumina, some alumina, and some COO, some MgO, sometimes we also added sodium carbonate and FeO. And from our laboratory study, we have achieved 78% of dephosphorylation ratio with 30% of synthetic slag. So far, I have discussed about the dephosphorylation in the steel. So in this session, next maybe Trinath, my time is over, I guess.
Yes, so you can continue. No issue.
Okay, I will complete. Okay, so as you know, the main source of sulfur from liquid iron. When you use electric arc furnace and other, the main sulfur is from coke, and for electric arc and induction based drying, your DRI is the main source of sulfur. The problem of sulfur, everyone knows. For phosphorus is cold shortness. For sulfur, it is hot shortness. It forms eutectic, low melting eutectic point, which is affect the formulity and other things during rolling. So, and as the same pattern I have used to develop the synthetic slag, the thermodynamics consideration and furnace condition, the basicity, sulfate capacity, sulfur partition ratio, and viscosity, and other composition. As I say, in case of phosphorus, we discussed the similar way. The thermodynamics of phosphorus sulfur removal should also be considered. This is slag, and this is dissolved phosphorus in metal. The sulfur may react with the FeO in the metal, it form FeS that will react with COO, and this is a chemical reaction. And also can write equilibrium constant for this, and also the activity of sulfur, you can rewritten the equation you will get up for phosphorus sulfur removal. You need high activity of CO and temperature, and low activity FeO in the slag and metal. So you have the FeO, which means low FeO and low oxygen means we are reducing condition. For sulfur removal, the reducing condition highly recommended, and also the sulfur and other things is very low amount. So the Henrian activity to be followed, the dilution solution. So composition which is less than 1, we assume to be Henrian solution. So Henrian solution, which means that weight percentage sulfur is directly equal to the Henrian coefficient of the sulfur. Henrian coefficient equal to the weight percentage of sulfur. Here similar way, the Henrian coefficient aluminum equal to weight percent aluminum. So you can replace this with then again, as I said, the phosphorus distribution is important for phosphorus. The partition coefficient sulfur is very important, which is weight percentage of sulfur in the slag by weight percentage of sulfur in the metal. So that is directly proportional to your activity of COO and weight percentage of aluminum. This is in the metal. This is in the slag. This is in the slag. So which means the alumina Al2O3 should be low. Otherwise, if Al2O3 is high in your slag, there may be oxidation or the removal of oxygen by aluminium may not be favorable because of high concentration of alumina in the slag. So the low alumina, if you add high aluminum in the metal, that will form alumina. So if you try to remove the alumina, it forms. So the low alumina is preferable high aluminum in the metal. So accordingly, you can high calcium and low FeO is preferable. So similar way here for sulfur, sulfate capacity and sulfur distribution ratio is main important. The remaining parameter are similar or same. You can keep same for sulfur removal except temperature. So similar way we have calculated the phase diagram. I think I have enough explained in case of phosphorus. For sulfur also similar way, similar things to be followed. This diagram will indicate to where your slag composition stands. And also sulfate capacity. Sulfate capacity, its distribution, both are important. If you write the equilibrium reaction, this has been taken from Slag Atlas and Dios et al. They have developed sulfate capacity with respect to the partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of sulfur. So in actual condition, measuring of partial pressure of O2 and phosphorus gas is not possible in actual plant or even in laboratory scale. Very difficult to calculate the partial pressure of sulfur and O2. So therefore, we followed empirical equation to calculate phosphate sulfate capacity and phosphorus distribution ratio. If you look at this, Dios et al. Has been developed the model to calculate sulfate capacity with respect to the chemical composition, and also he has developed, that group has developed phosphate capacity with optical basicity. And also phosphorus distribution with the phosphorus distribution, sulfur distribution can be calculated in two ways. One is by using the empirical equation, and another way of empirical equation used before experiment. The actual after experiment, you can use the phosphate, you can use the distribution ratio, you can calculate the percentage of sulfur in the slag and sulfur in the metal. Sulfur in the metal you can analyze by the spectroscopy, normal DRS based spectro, which will give you the composition of your metal, and you can use CHS analysis, sulfur and analysis of slag, that will give the slag, that will give you the sulfur in the slag. So both the percentage of sulfur in the slag by chemical analysis and percentage of metal in the percentage of metal in the percentage of sulfur in the metal can be a spectrum. So both can be calculated. You can validate both model and your actual data. So as I said, the viscosity of different slag has been measured. If you look at the viscosity of different slag is measured 650 degrees Celsius. As I said, that alumina, why? Because alumina is we consider as a neutral oxide. It behaves both acidic and basic, based on the nature of the slag. If your slag is acidic, it is network breaker. If it is basic, it is network former. So accordingly, the alumina is sometimes it helps, sometimes not. So based on the your slag nature, and also by using the model and using optical basicity, we have calculated the sulfate capacity. See, this is the sulfate capacity. Before doing your experiment, we must ensure we have got appropriate or sufficient sulfate capacity on this, and also we have calculated sulfur distribution. See, the more the sulfur distribution, which means higher sulfur removal. See, one case for in this chemistry, we have achieved around LS value is 160. More lime is there, and the silica is lay. Okay, and also if you look at the other than phosphate capacity value, you look at this is 169 is phosphate sulfur distribution, and if you look at the sulfate capacity, see 0.4, 0.2, 0.00. So if you know this value, you ensure your synthetic slag or flex to be going to work. So as I said, experiment we used different oxide, and also some cases we have also used calcium carbide, which is very deep phosphate that will also remove sulfur significant level. And also we have performed in 20 kg different kg furnace. The final slag, see the lime slag is color of lime changed. The slag, I will also show you with respect to time what is the color of the slag. You can also, the industrial or operator can able to tell you that by looking at the slag color, they can say that whether sulfur removed or which kind of slag it is. So since I have worked 1 year in the plant, I have some experience of it. The same procedure I followed. You melt steel scrap or DRI in induction furnace, you add calculated amount of synthetic slag and allow for sufficient time, then remove the slag, then to alloy addition and tapping and casting. This is a simple way we operate, or we follow this procedure to evaluate our flex. See, as I said, this is the initial sulfur. This is the final sulfur. Look at 0.067. We have achieved from this to this, this to this, and sulfur in and also sulfur in slag we have analyzed using ICP and CHNS analyzer, and also accordingly we have calculated the LS value. This LS value is calculated based on the chemical analysis. This LS value is calculated based on stoichiometry. So if you look at this, so which I said the one final pass of this much, we achieved even 0.01 phosphorus and at the ratio, when this ratio is high, hello classmate, achieved distribution ratio this much. So you ensure your flex got certain all the quality, all the physical and chemical property, all the property required for phosphorus removal. If once ensure theoretically, during experiment it will work out. So doing lots of experiment, it's not important, but before experiment, proper planning and theoretical calculation is must. If you done that, if you ensure with theoretical calculation works 100%, your practical will be work out. So without theoretical, practical may be work out completely, but so it's my suggestion. And also viscosity of different slag, partition ratio of some synthetic slag we have developed. See, look at this. And also this sulfur in metal. Final sulfur in the metal, sulfur in the slag. So accordingly, you see this, if this value is increasing, you got low sulfur in the metal. See, accordingly, see, look at the sulfur capacity. So this should be measured before and after experiment. This before experiment means your property of your slag. Before experiment, after experiment, you analyze the final slag and metal composition, you do it. So viscosity, liquid temperature also calculated using Factset. Sulfur partition is calculated using sulfur analysis in the metal, and slag by sulfur and spectroanalysis. There are in our NML we have different sulfur analyzer, CHNS and other lots of techniques they use it to measure it. So we get work done from there. And also I calculate the effect of C2O5 and temperature. See, this is temperatures here, effect of P2O5, effect of P2, CO by SI with sulfur capacity. But I don't know, with increasing basicity, we are increasing the phosphate capacity. Or after certain time, it decreasing. Maybe the exact reason for this actually not identified. This may be because of maybe some experimental error, or maybe some due to the presence of some MgO, or it may be comes from some other source. So we understood that up to 3.5 your phosphate capacity is increasing. So in this equation, if you look at this sulfate capacity measured this model, so this gives MgO and SiO and Al2O3 and SiO. So I think maybe it's because of MgO, and also the sulfate capacity was measured with the different temperature or different slag. See, look at this, the high CO ratio and 0 MgO. It's a very high phosphate capacity. But phosphate capacity from this calculation is increasing with increasing temperature. It must. So for phosphorus removal, high temperature is preferable. See, in this curve, 7COO, MgO, this there. So here is, see this phosphorus, this ratio. So and also we P2O5 and sulfur partition ratio. We have used model to calculate it, and also we used experimental method. The model, DSO model method. See, this is model method. So model method behaves same way, and also we have calculated based on this equation. Percentage sulfur and percentage sulfur, this also be a same value with increasing this one. And phosphorus distribution with the basicity, high basicity, we have very 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here, or makes this basicity, after beyond certain level, phosphorus partition ratio is decreasing. Yeah, because this I think the basicity CaO SiO2, this phosphorus distribution ratio in previous slide, this with increased basicity, maybe because of when you add more lime means we are increasing basicity. No, when you add CaO more, we are increasing basicity. The more basicity you add, that basicity that CaO must dissolve in your slag system. Okay, the presence of solid CaO in the slag system may affect the sulfur partition and sulfate capacity. So that is a reason after certain time it drops because of that may be the dissolution of CaO into your system. So that this is why your phosphate sulfate capacity decreasing beyond some basicity, and also here after beyond level partition ratio is decreasing because of this. Maybe that could be the one of the reason. Might be some other reason also be there. As I said, that we have also conducted the experiment with the different varying time. 0, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, 25, and 27 minutes. See, sulfur is decreasing from gradually with increasing temperature. So at 10 minutes, our phosphorus is below 0.05. So with increasing time at 15 minutes, you end up with this. After 20 minutes, sulfur is almost 0.01. And also for time, with different time, we have taken slag and we just quench the sample, slag sample. See, initial slag maybe after adding, maybe 1 to 2 minutes. After 5 minutes, we slag, this color looks black. After 10 minutes, the slag color of slag is changed. This may be reason the lime dissolution may take 10 minutes as per in our study. The dissolution of lime in the flux, it's huge study, and there is some report that dissolution of lime takes more time, that depending upon the size of the particle and other reactant present in the slag system. So I think this is why the 10 minutes correspond to 10 minutes, you are end up 0.04. This one is your slag. So changing, the color changing. This like this is maybe oxide, maybe the killing is not happened properly, and also the lime is not dissolved. Here is everything is done. This is the correct and right slag for sulfur removal. Okay, Trinath, about to complete. Huh? And as I said, that this calculation of synthetic slag for sulfur also be measured by using this. This can be done by your empirical value or actual data available and initial sulfur. Okay, the same. This is same as mentioned in phosphorus removal. So that is why, and also and summary. This is summary for sulfur removal, as I already given summary for phosphorus removal separately. So synthetic slag developed of dephosphorylation in MgO based refractory lining induction furnace. We have achieved 84% of dephosphorylation with 3%. And to achieve this percentage of phosphorus, you need at least 10 minutes, and synthetic slag should have 2 to 3%, and we have measured it. And one more thing I like to say it, and we have also calculated dephosphorylation degree for non-cleared steel, where there is no aluminum or no dioxide, where we have achieved 30% of sulfur removal. The 30% of sulfur removal may be because of oxidation of sulfur to SiO2, SO2 or some other sulfate. So that result I have not shown. I thought it is there, but it's not there. And also that's why we also calculated non-killing steel sulfur removal. That interesting that 30% of dephosphorylation is happened. 30% sulfur is also goes there, but in EAF and other furnace, people suggest that during oxidation also some sulfur goes, but that is not 30%. That is around 5 to 10%. Maybe my case is maybe small volume or maybe something there. So for cleared non-cleared steel, for cleared steel 84% we achieved. For non-cleared steel we have achieved 34%. So I think I